Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. Today we're talking about trauma bonding, not just in, romantic relationships, because that's where we tend to throw that term around the most, but it happens a lot in our friendships in EMS. And maybe that sounds silly, but hear me out. I can't tell you how many times I have made acquaintances that we just clicked quickly, and it was a it doesn't sound goofy, but it was kind of a hot and heavy friendship. Like you just bond so quickly, so intensely. Everything is cool. You're so excited. You talk to each other all the time. You become best friends in a few days with somebody. You start talking about how much you idolize them and how much you think the world of them, and they're a role model, and da da da. What? Hold the fuck up. But it's so funny because it happens all the time, because you have people who, I would say in general in EMS, we're fairly mentally ill people. That's not even strictly because of the job. I would actually argue that it's usually not as much related to the job. Because if you talk to most of us, we're generally pretty numb to the job. We're generally pretty indifferent about the things that we see on the clock. And for some, that's just the result of unhealthy coping mechanisms. And for some, it truly is just this ability to detach and separate from it. But in general, I think that our mental illnesses extend prior to getting into this field. And I don't know why it is that you don't get a lot of normal people coming into EMS. You really don't. And the ones that do usually don't last that long. They don't enjoy it. And it's kind of an interesting question, I would say. And that's not degrading anybody. Like, I would not describe myself as having been mentally well coming into this. I didn't realize it at the time, but I had a lot of very different psychological trauma leading into this career that I guess in some way prepared me for dealing with it. And I say this out of gratitude, not out of ego or bragging, that the job doesn't bother me. There's nothing that I see at work that has ever come home with me, given me nightmares, whatever. There's, I think, maybe one patient, maybe two, that I ever truly cried over. That's it. In 13 years, that's it. That's all. So I just and I'm speaking anecdotally, obviously. So I'm sure this would be very interesting, if it's even possible. It would be very interesting to see some studies done on it. You talk to people at the beginning of their EMS journey, do a psych evaluation on them basically, and then in 10 years do another one and see what happens if they make it 10 years. But that's something that's outside of my wheelhouse. But it's interesting that we seem to be drawn to the dopamine hits of trauma bonding, because it feels great when someone is excited to talk to us, they're excited to be around us, we connect with them, we have common interests, we enjoy spending time together. Like, those kinds of friendships grow very quickly. But unfortunately, a lot of times they don't last. And we're very crash and burn people, because we have a lot of defense mechanisms. We will jump whole hog into something, but the moment that we sense there might be a problem, we're out and we ditch, both with friends and with significant others. I mean, it's kind of true with jobs too. We kind of tend to trauma bond with our jobs, with whatever agencies we're working at, and then things go awry, and suddenly we fall out of love very quickly. Now, there's a lot of other factors in that, so that's kind of more just an aside, not even really a true connection to trauma bonding, but it's kind of an interesting point. We tend to do a lot of love bombing in our trauma bonding friendships. And again, I'm using terms that are, while they are inherently romantic, but when you just look at friendship as its own thing, when you look at it separately from romance, there's a lot of common behaviors that we exhibit. We get into these very, very intense friendships, and our expectations are high. Our expectations are, oh, we're just we can work through anything. We can handle anything. It's fine. There's nothing that's going to be able to separate us until there's something that does. And then suddenly it's this, oh, well, I can't be connected to this anymore emotionally, because if I am and it goes wrong, then that's just going to make things worse, and I can't deal with it, and I don't want to be around it. And so I'm just going to walk away now. And we get in that habit of doing that because we naturally reinforce that decision making, because like, okay, well, I was able to get out and I didn't get hurt from it, so it's fine. And we just reinforce that behavior that causes more toxicity and more trauma bonding and more problems. So how do we deal with this? Well, one thing that I have preached for a while now is have friends outside of EMS. Go make normal friendships with people. Treat making friends like dating. You take it a little bit at a time. Find ways to connect with people, appreciate their differences, learn what the I guess conflict points could be, and how you work around them, and what's more important to you, having a healthy friendship where you don't always agree with somebody on something, or having to insulate yourself with people that you agree with. We're very bad as an industry in general, and again, I'm speaking in generalities, so I'm sure people are going to have a conniption about something, but we don't do a good job of having friends that will call us out on our own bullshit. We tend to like people who have similar experiences, who will empathize faster than they will criticize. We very much shy away from conflict of any kind of challenge because that's hard. That sucks. But I would argue that that's actually the exact friendships that we need to be cultivating. We need to be cultivating relationships with people who will call us on our bullshit. And we need to be receptive to it. And that's hard because our egos get involved, and it's really, 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 really messy. And we really don't want to have those conversations. I get it. I'm not disputing that. I have had to struggle with this a lot. But it's important to get out of the echo chamber of EMS. Yes, I say that as somebody who spends hours every week with content creation, editing, working a ton. Michelle works far more hours than I do, but we both work a lot. Even considering that, there is a huge slice of my life that is completely disconnected from EMS, friends that are disconnected from EMS. And that's been one of the best things I've ever done, because when this job consumes you, you will surround yourself with like-minded people, which sounds great until you realize those like-minded people are also fueling a lot of the bad habits that you have. Come here, buddy. Oh my. Gotta have the cat in my lap. Now, obviously, working in EMS, we're going to have friends that work in EMS. Cool, that's great. Here's some simple things that we can/should do. We need to be careful of love bombing. If someone's immediately love bombing you as a friend, that should kind of raise some flags in your head that maybe this isn't going to last. Maybe this isn't going to be a good, maybe this isn't going to be a good, healthy thing. I have noticed that the people that do that tend to have very unstable personal lives. So they're in this constant search for stability. So the moment they find somebody that they have these kind of rosy colored thoughts of, oh my goodness, I love this person, I like this person, I want to spend time around them, I think they're really cool, they're really inspiring, awesome. And they don't think, they don't slow down. They would rather focus on that than on focusing on their own life. They would rather bond with people that they think are interesting or impressive, or bond with people that they think they can fix. And they do that so that it takes away the attention from their problems. And when attention gets put on their problems, they either only want sympathy, or they're just going to get outright touchy and try to step around it. That's just pretty commonly how it works. Most people, and this is generally not just in EMS, quite a few people are actually not interested in self-improvement to a significant degree. There's people that like talking about it. There's people that will read books, but implementation is the hard part. And implementation of personal growth requires a certain social element of it. We are social creatures. We do need the social interaction, validation, invalidation, all of that. We can't live on an island. But when you're trauma bonding with your friends, you're not forming a good connection with them. you're actually forming harmful connections because you're trying to force deep roots into ground that's not ready for it. And then right as that ground is kind of starting to get ready for it, you yank them back up. That's bad for everybody. That's really bad for everybody. So stop love bombing your friends. It's not complicated. Be willing to have conversations where people confront you. Be willing to gain the perspective that maybe your perception of certain things, certain events, certain people is incorrect. Learn to identify your weaknesses and look for input from other people on how to improve those weaknesses. Or, with a friend or a significant other, form the kind of relationship where you can both leverage each other's strengths, where you can work together, where you can say, hey man, like I'm really bad in whatever the topic is. Can you please help me? Cool. Awesome. Now, with that also comes realizing that not everybody has time to help us deal with our problems. So don't take it personally when someone says, hey, I'm sorry, I'm not able to really deal with this. Here's kind of my, suggestion, advice, whatever. Good luck. Let me know how it goes. Cool, fine. It's no one else's responsibility to fix us but ourselves. So just be careful, even just making friends with trauma bonding with people, because it can very easily go sideways. And you can actually end up causing a lot more harm than good. And that's all I got for you guys. If you learned something, awesome. Share it with your friends. If you were offended, good. You should be. And I'll talk to you next time. Bye bye.